When you open up your folder, you'll have, I'm just going to look at School 28 here. School 28 has the 2015 reports, the 2016 reports, which is the final results data, and then it's got the NCA certificates. And it's in the final results data that you'll have, I want to have a look at. Now, this year, if you get the data, it'll be 2017 and it'll be the provisional results. You can see here that this school has a customised provisional result. So they have their own customised report. And then there's the teacher comments. I'll just have a quick look here. Now, at the moment, I've called this Achievement Standards, but I'm going to change the name to Achievement Standards with Merit and Excellence Analysis, because that is what it is. It has merit and excellence analysis, and the all subject reports do not. And I want to have a look at, I'll go back and make up a bogus score, and we'll have a look at the teacher comment report and how I customize those. So this is this school's all subjects. I'm just going to change the type, and you can see they've got a PDF for every subject that they have, and then they have an Excel document for every subject they have. And what we were doing is opening up the Excel document, going in there, writing the comments, and then exporting it or saving it as Word or PDF. Some schools were able to edit their PDFs. I also can now edit my PDFs, and I use the Adobe Cloud program, and I can export about 50 reports at a time. So I do provide that service for schools who don't export their own PDFs. But if I go back to my, I've made a bogus lot of data. I've just combined a few schools and put a few formulas in so the data isn't belong to any one school. So we'll look at the final results. I want to go straight to, I'll look at the customization and just explain how the different customized reports are affected. What I have is I have at the moment, and it's not limited to this, I have a report with 53 rows. If you put that out, if you printed that, you'd be a 2-page report, and I feel it's best to just have 1 page, and so do the schools I deal with. There's no real need to have 8 national comparisons here, plus a comparison for Māori, Pacifica, Asian, European, other boys and girls. I don't have anyone who wants all those comparisons. We normally just want a couple. And here is the analysis of merits and excellences. All of this data is helping people analyse merits and excellences. And I'd like to talk about that. I'm going to make it a little larger because this does distinguish on your marks reports. I'm going to look at, I've got to hide some of the stuff. I'm going to hide it up to, just so we can make some sense of it. I'm going to hide all of those. And this is actually how I make up a master for you, a master report for you, or a template for you. And I think we can get rid of these as well, just for now. They're not deleted, they're just hidden. And this is how I make up a report for you. Okay, well, very small numbers. Okay, it looks like it's a level 3, it's a mathematics subject standard, and it's an external. Okay, so the data I've got here is only, could have been a bit more inventive, couldn't I? I've only got 4 kids sitting. So they only have 3% of the school roll sitting. Nationally, nearly 15% of the school roll sit. So this participation of year level, it's telling you what percentage of your school are sitting the subject compared to the nation. And it's based on, probably this year be based on the November or the October 7th roll, or maybe the July the 7th roll. Now, because, as you know, students come and go, this is a ballpark figure, but so is the national figure. But we can see down here, the relative participation is 1/5, 23%. You've only got 23% of the number of kids sitting compared to the rest of the country. And that could be because of streaming. It could be that the subject's not very popular. It could be that the level 2s and 1s didn't do very well. And these are things that you can think about if you're wanting to perform in the subject like the nation, or you might want to have double what the nation has for this subject. So this participation level, but it's quite interesting here because it's gone 9% down to 3%. So the numbers of students have dropped, and it's gone from 9 to 4. I should have got a bigger data set. It's unfortunate. It wasn't the best one to choose. My mistake there. Okay. Okay, that was a mistake on my part. Anyway, we can see the relative participation went down, and what often happens when the relative participation goes down is that the performance can go up. I think I've got a better report to look at. And we can see here is the number of merits and excellences, and so the school was getting 1% of its students, not 1% of the kids sitting, 1% of its students enrolled in the school were getting the merit and excellence in the subject, compared to nationally 5% are getting the merit or excellence. So as an output of the school, nationally the school is giving 5 out of 100 kids are getting the merit and excellence. Over here, only 1 out of 100. The merit and excellences did go up to 7%, and this one went up to 2%. Okay, these are the school targets. Where a school can set a target, and we can, I can report to you on that. Only a few schools are using this part. For most schools, it's hidden. But if you have a school target, like you want to have 100% better than 100% pass rate, it'll come up here, and like this will say, goal is met in green, and if it's not green, then the goal has not been met. Okay, there's a relative reliance on internals. And also this here is whether it's incongruent or not. And we really need to look at another report, because as you can see, or you might not know, but this is no rows hidden. So it's a little bit difficult for me to pull up data for a subject called no rows hidden. But these are all the rows. I limit those rows and make different reports. So let's have a look at a couple of reports that I have, which are my default reports. So I'll go to the Word format. This is the one with the analysis, and this is the one without. So we'll have a look at this one, and we'll see what it is like without. So here it's 3 years data. Some schools decide to hide this and just have the last year's data. We're comparing to 3 decile groups. I normally compare to 3 national groups at least. Some compare to more. We're comparing to the decile 8 group, the decile band, and the nation. And these are the results, again, the same as up here, except this time they've been converted to percentages. I include merit and excellence because sometimes the difference between a merit and excellence isn't as clear-cut as we would like, and I feel that this figure may be more useful than either merit or excellence by itself. Here we can see that their pass rate or their failure rate is about half the nation, and their merits and excellences in this subject are greater. There's a comparison for Moaney, Pacifica, boys and girls. A lot of schools, the co-ed schools, are definitely wanting to compare between boys and girls. This data here, I didn't put any girls in, so that was unfortunate. But anyway, the relative reliance on internals. Here, the nation was 64% of all credits came from internals in 2014. And that went up to 67% in 2016. This school has stayed around 62, 60, 62. And it says here the difference has gone from 3% less in 2014 to 5% less. Sometimes after an error review, low decile schools might jump up the amount of internals. Error is looking at NCEA certificates for our disadvantaged students, and there's been no requirement that they be in externals, and so often it's easier for some reason to go internals, and so sometimes you'll see there's a change in a school's reliance on internals. Down here, I've made a comment that computer-generated comment that there were 1,241 Maths 1 standards were assessed, with 32% from merits and 42% came from externals and 25 internals. So this is quite good, that most of the merits were coming from externals, not internals, and we look at the externals, and again, they're equal. When these are really different, when all the high grades are coming from internals, it can lead to an incongruence. It could lead to an incongruence. Now, this is the relative performance, and I'll talk about this in the next report. The relative performance for externals is 59, relative performance for internals is 55. So that's quite a simple report, and now the teachers can just come in here and write away about what they want to say about that standard, and then they can write in here, and that is the report finished. And this is why this report is so popular. It's all the data's there. You've got your comparison groups. You've got the school data for 3 years. You can see how the Māori Pacifica, or if you want to add Asian, European, you can add that there. And you've got your boys and girls. Like I say, this is the default, one of the default reports. The next default report I want to have a look at is the analysis with the merits and excellences. And this is quite powerful, but it can be confusing. And it depends on your staff. Some staff, science teachers might lap it up. Science and maths teachers might lap it up, but maybe other teachers who are not used to looking at data, they might find it all a little bit concerning. So it might not be the report for everyone. This is, I want to look at the participation and the relative performance. Now, there's always a problem of how do you compare one standard within a subject or one standard from one year to the other, and the answer is relative performance. What I do is I weight the merits, excellences, and achieves, not achieves, based on the percentage of students that got that grade nationally. So if 50% of the students got a not achieved, then a not achieved becomes worth 0.25. It's the middle percentile of that group, the middle spread of that group. And when I multiply all the students who got a not achieved by the weighting, and then I multiply the achieves, merits, and excellences by their weighting for the nation, and average by the total number of students who sat, the national mark becomes 50%. And some people just like to say the data has been normalized. The bundle of results have been weighted and normalized so that the national is always 50%. If 80% are getting excellences, the relative performance nationally is 50%. If 5% are getting excellences, again, the national data will be normalized to 50%. I use the same weightings on your data, and it gives you the relative performance. I wouldn't get too excited by a couple of percentage points, but it is not the easiest thing to get away from the 50%. So let's have a look. So this school's relative performance is about the same, 57, 54, 59. Here, 60, 61, 62, about the same. It's gone down a little one. We can see that this one's dropping, and this is an interesting one. It's dropping just a little, and I want to see if there's an explanation that I can see why it might be dropping a little. Now, up here, I've said the participation. That is, what percentage of the school roll is sitting, not what percentage of the kids who are enrolled sat. Not the percentage of kids doing, what's the subject, maths level 1. It's not how many of them sat, it's how many students enrolled at year 11 on the school roll sat. Now, we know sometimes you get a year 12 or a year 10, but I'm going to assume that's going to balance out over the years. And data always needs a little bit of interpretation, but let's have a look. Here we had nearly 70% in 2014 were sitting. So in 2014, the school had 148 students sit, and I'm not sure what the school roll was, but this 148 was 70% of the school roll. And the school roll has changed. It's a little bit more going up, and here it's gone up again, or it's about the same. So we can see that the relative participation is, this is the participation of the school. It's around 70% each year. But nationally, for some reason, this subject, geometrical reasoning, is losing popularity. Nearly 40% sat it in 2014, went down by 2.5% in 2015, and it's gone down again. It's become less popular. And so what's happened is the relative participation has grown. We've got a bigger percentage of kids sitting. Other schools are taking out their weaker students. So other schools are being a little bit more selective, from having 40% down to a third. Now, this school's relative participation, it's creeping up, 175, 194, 210. We now have double the number of kids sitting. And what happens to the performance is you are performing against a smaller group. You are performing against a more elite group. And this school, which is continuing to chuck out 70% of the kids sitting, its performance is going down. So when you're asking, the HOD wants to know, why is the performance going down? Why are we not, performing as well as we used to? And we can have a look at the merits and excellences, 67, 57, 49. Now, as we know, these things are scaled every year. The NCQA is wanting the same percentage of these grades coming out, and it's going to make it harder for a school with 70% of the kids sitting to get those grades. And so the explanation for why the relative performance is going down could be that the relative participation has gone up. There may be other factors, but it's sometimes a guide, especially if a school is a small school and their relative participation is going to be high. They're going to have people doing the subject who at another school would choose to do something else. So when I look at a performance, when I try to see a trend in the performance, I like to look at the relative participation. Have we streamed the subject, or has it become harder? Now here we can see this subject is also, the relative participation has gone up, but they've stayed pretty constant. Okay, let's see if there's any more which might stick out. Here we see this one here. They've got 3 times, 5 times the number of kids doing this subject. It's just not a popular subject. This subject here, apply linear algebra, the school's only got half as many kids sitting. Okay, the next thing is maybe we're interested in the total merits and excellences that the school is generating in this subject. This is not a subject with lower people sitting. It might not be a subject the school's wanting to get a lot of merits and excellences in, but we can still see they're getting quite a high number. And this merit and excellence is how many students on the school roll. We'll go back to the external level 1 algebra here. This school is getting 62% of all students on the roll got a merit or excellence in this subject, whether they, and I think they all sat anyway. So 62% of them are getting a merit or excellence, and this is obviously an important subject to the school. They think getting a merit and excellence in this external is a good idea. Okay. Here we see, I think we might have been over this, relative reliance on internals. Relative reliance on internals has stayed constant. The nation is getting more reliant on internals, and this was the relative performance. So this relative performance is for all of the externals, and it has to be weighted for all of the externals, and this relative performance for the internals is all the internals. And we can see the relative performance of 59 to 55, they're about the same. And the suggestion is if you can knock out a 59% relative performance externally, well, then we'd expect it to be about the same for internally. When these two are significantly different, that is when the internals is really high and the externals is really low, the square goes pink, and it suggests there's an incongruence. Now this tape's not going to finish, so I'll finish it here. So this is a default for the analysis, and then there was the default for without the analysis, and then schools tend to choose their own rows. So I look forward to hearing from you. Have a look at the original one I had there, what rows are available, or if you want to be compared to another national mean, or if there's something else you want, just ask and I can write that report up for you. So thank you for that, and I'll stop recording.